Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a princess named Snow White, whose beauty was legendary. Snow White's skin was as white as snow, her hair as black as coal, and her lips as red as blood. Her mother died shortly after Snow White was born, and her father remarried. Her stepmother was a very beautiful but very evil woman. Every day, the stepmother would ask her magic mirror, "Mirror, mirror, tell me, is there anyone more beautiful than me in this world?" The mirror always said, "You are the most beautiful in the world." However, as Snow White grew up and became more beautiful, one day the mirror said, "Snow White is more beautiful than you." The stepmother, mad with jealousy, called a hunter and ordered him to take Snow White to the forest and kill her. However, the hunter could not bear to kill Snow White and set her free in the forest. While Snow White was wandering in the forest in fear, she came across a small, cute hut. When she went inside, she saw that everything was small chairs, small tables, and small beds. Snow White, who was very tired, lay down on one of the beds and fell asleep. This hut belonged to 7 dwarfs. Returning home in the evening, the dwarfs found Snow White, and when they found out who she was, they let her stay in their house. Snow White started to live happily with the dwarfs by helping with housework. Meanwhile, the stepmother found out that Snow White was still alive and began to think of various cunning ways to kill her. First, she disguised herself as an old woman and sold Snow White a poisonous comb. When the comb touched Snow White's hair, she fainted. Fortunately, the dwarfs arrived in time to remove the poison from the comb and save Snow White. Later, the stepmother disguised herself as an old woman and sold Snow White a poison belt. When the belt was tightened, Snow White fainted, but the dwarfs saved her again. Finally, the stepmother prepared a poisoned apple and gave it to Snow White disguised as an old peasant woman. Only one half of the apple was poisoned, and Snow White collapsed as soon as she bit the poison part. The dwarves could not save Snow White, and they exhibited her in a glass coffin in the forest. Days, months, years passed, and one day a handsome prince saw Snow White while passing through the forest. Admiring her beauty, the prince fell in love with her and opened the lid of the coffin and kissed Snow White. Snow White woke up with the prince's kiss. It turned out that the piece of apple was stuck in her throat and came out thanks to the kiss. The prince and Snow White got married and lived a happy life together. The evil stepmother could never harm them again.